Ricky Starks has arrived in WWE, making his anticipated debut on NXT, shocking those in attendance, breaking the internet, and leaving several key questions in his path, none bigger than the one that everyone is asking: what went wrong with Ricky Starks in AEW? If we go back and look at Ricky Starks, his talent has never been in question. As many people have said, Ricky is one of the best young promos there is in the entire game today. If you even go back and look at the stuff that he was doing in NWA, he was out of this world. There were not many young talkers that had the charisma, the energy, and the enthusiasm like Ricky Starks did. And the best part is he put his own twist on things that gave him a very distinctive, confident, and captivating voice. And when you're looking for a guy who's able to cut a great promo, you need that. So automatically we take away mic skills. You look at him in the ring. Ricky Starks, both during and before his time in AEW, was a pretty great wrestling talent. You go back and look throughout his time in All Elite Wrestling, the people who he has wrestled, the people who he's had classic matches against. Think about MJF versus Ricky Starks in MJF's first big title defense at Winter is Coming 2022. He was trusted to be in that spot. It could have been very easy for AEW to say that they were going to have Max face off against a Bryan Danielson, an Adam Cole, a Hangman Page, people who had been there, done that, people who were more trusted stars, people who the fans were more familiar with in order to help establish that champion. But instead, they chose Ricky Starks. And that was a turning point because Ricky Starks proved in that match that not only could he hang with the best of them, but he could also rise to the occasion and even pull his end of the bargain. And if you're looking for a match that really defines how great of a wrestler Ricky Starks is, go back and watch Ricky versus Bryan Danielson All Out 2023. One of the best matches he's ever had, and a match that even by the American Dragon Bryan Danielson's admission, Ricky Starks carried. Bryan was coming off of having his shoulder broken and even claimed that he was not the one leading the match, and instead it was the young Starks, and it ended up being one of the best matches of the year in any company. So we know that in ring, on the mic, Ricky is as good as it gets. So what is the issue? Well, we know that throughout Ricky's time in AEW, it has been kind of start and stop. As the FTW champion, he entered with a lot of praise and a lot of critical acclaim. However, it soon became evident that Ricky was suffering from a booking problem. And that problem laid with the AEW booking team. Because as good as Ricky Starks was and as high as his highs were, they were followed up with nothing, with emptiness, with voids of him being on TV. Ricky would go months on end without having serious TV time, telling stories, or even cutting promos. You go back and look at the start and stop that happened with him throughout 2022 into 2023, it really impacted where he stood with the company. And you could argue the person that suffered the most as far as a talent goes from CM Punk's departure from AEW was Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks was in the middle of what could have been a career-defining program with CM Punk, who at the time was doing the Real World's Champion gimmick. And everyone believed that Ricky Starks was going to be the one to take that Real World's Championship away from Punk, and that was going to help him potentially get into a World Championship program. As we know, that didn't happen. CM Punk would be fired from the company the same week they were set to have their match, and instead he would go on to have that great match with Bryan. But then we were followed up with a couple of months of nothing. He would have a very short-lived tag team run with Big Bill, but following that is when the real problems began. It was reported that Ricky Starks had suffered an injury in February of 2024. And after a while, he had even claimed that he was cleared, something that AEW representatives kind of pushed back on. And we were stuck for a very long time. And the fact of the matter is, Ricky Starks never showed up on AEW TV again. There were long stretches where we didn't hear a word from him. And the question was, where is Ricky? And as we have kind of come to find out, it seems like at some point there was a major rift. AEW seems to claim that there were creative differences that led to Ricky not wanting to do business and therefore not being on TV, while Starks claims that he was always ready to come back. He's done multiple interviews with the likes of Chris Van Vliet, claiming that he's ready to go, and even ended up doing some House of Glory shows and a GCW appearance before being unceremoniously pulled from the ladder due to conflicts between GCW and AEW. And it just seems like the situation between the two became untenable. For whatever reason, AEW management and Ricky Starks were not on the same page. Perhaps it goes back to Starks asking AEW not to renew his deal, only to have AEW do that very thing a couple of months later. But the fact of the matter is, as of this point, we don't know. What we do know is that he is in WWE. What we do know is that he is going to be appearing on the NXT brand. And what we do know is that Ricky Starks is going to have a mountain of a chip on his shoulder. Ricky is already one of the most confident wrestlers there is in the entire business. You can see that with the way he walks, with the way he talks, with the way he carries himself. And with everything that has preceded this debut, you know that he is going to be carrying himself with a boatload of confidence, and he is going to do everything he can to prove everyone who either kept him off TV or thought that he wasn't good enough to be there wrong. And that is what we are going to see. That is what we are going to have to keep our eyes on. We know that there's so many stories for Ricky to tell in WWE, whether it be with the likes of the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes, someone who he has been tied with for years, someone who he claims is a friend, or with people who were also ex-AEW talent like Andrade, Malachi Black, who could be headed to the company very soon as well, and many, many others. And maybe even finally finishing off that story that they never got to complete, Ricky Starks versus CM Punk. The point is, the possibilities are endless, and Ricky has exactly what it takes to be a world championship level guy. Will he achieve that in WWE? Personally, I think so. But hey, I guess we'll see.